What's going on out there, fishing fam? Reyes here with the Dirty Hookers, back with Ceasar, now with Syndicate rods and Accurate Fishing, also yo-zuri.
Yes, sir.
Quite a few other companies as well. Since you guys have been asking for him to come back so much because you don't like me nearly as much as you like him, we got him back in the studio today, and we are going to be doing a tackle talk on the Sea of Cortez and everything that has to do with fishing out there. Trolling, casting for Cabrilla, casting at Dorado, yo-yo, yellowtails, everything and in between that you could think of. We are going to go over that in today's video. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let Ceasar take over. I'll jump in here and there as well. We're going to go ahead and get started on this video. Hope you guys enjoy. All right.
Okay, so this is some of the stuff that you're going to want to have with you when you're fishing the Sea of Cortez. You're going to want trolling lures, whether it be a hard bait, such as this Nomad, the Rapalas, the yo-zuris, and even, of course, we can't forget, unfortunately we don't have one here, is the mirror lures. It's a staple for the guys that troll Sea of Cortez. Other thing you might want to think about doing down there for the Dorado is trolling spreader bars. These little micro spreader bars are extremely devastating on Dorado. They don't troll a lot of feathers down there. If they do, they're usually really small. But the spreader bars give you a lot more chance of drawing the fish in because you have a lot more baits in the water. So a single rod out back with a spreader bar can really draw the Dorado in pretty good. Other things that work real well that you need to have down there is the jerk baits for the Cabrilla, whether it be the yo-zuri, the current sniper, or whatever jerk bait you prefer. These two for us have been working the best primarily. And then you want to have replacement hooks for your jerk baits. Bait rigs. Very important that you get the right sabiki rigs. Okay, we have a 4-hook here and a 2-hook. Both of these have heavier lines and they're a lot more durable for making the mackerel down there. What you don't want is those really inexpensive sabiki rigs because they don't hold up. You'll go down there with 6 hooks and you might come back with 4 hooks, you might come back with 3 hooks, and pretty soon you're down to 1 hook. And the window for making bait is very small, so you want to have either the 4-hook for the smaller baits or the 2-hook for the bigger baits because those things hold up better. The other thing you want to make sure you have is good bait hooks. Nothing smaller than the 8/0 if you're fishing mackerel or anything like that, or cut bait. And they fish a lot of chunk bait down there for the groupers, for the pargo and other stuff like that. So you want to make sure you have a good assortment of bigger size hooks. I would recommend from 8/0 to 12/0 for your bait hooks. And then for your grouper hooks, you definitely want to go big. I like the Jobu hooks myself because they have a big wide gap on them. But a large grouper or a black sea bass has a very heavy jaw, very wide jaw, unlike a tuna. So you want to make sure you have a big wide gap on there so that you can clear the fish's mouth, the jaw, and you have to have a good cutting point on it because it'll punch through that jawbone. So it's very important to have that. So we have 2 different rigs here. We have one with a trap hook and one just a straight. Other things you need to have, yo-yo jigs, 3 ounces up to 5-6 ounces on the yo-yo jigs. Crocodiles are a good bait. Surface irons and something else you need to have with you if you want to target surface fish. Plus, the other thing you need to have that's getting popular down there is vertical jigs for your fishing heavy current and deep structure for yellows, for the snowy groupers and stuff like that. The vertical jig is a good option. Metal jigs such as the jig paras and the 60 gram, the micro jigs for the Sierras, also for the Cabrilla. During the day, sometimes the Cabrilla don't want to eat a bigger bait in the surface. The smaller baits actually get down and get bit a lot better. You want to have plenty of sinkers. You want to start with at least 8 ounces and go to minimum of 16 or if not heavier. But make sure you do get some sliding egg sinkers. Some of the rigs down there for fishing the grouper, they prefer the sliding egg sinkers versus the torpedo sinkers. And that's about it. For the Sea of Cortez, gear-wise, you really need to have a couple of different rods. You need like a 50-pound or 60-pound rod, 6.5 foot, 7 foot, no longer than 7 foot for this type of stuff. And then you need to have yourself a heavy outfit for fishing 100-pound. Something like this. Preferably 6 foot, 6.5 foot, not much longer than that. Grouper down there, you want to run a long mono top shot. Minimum of 30 yards. This one's a little bit low, but you want a minimum of 100 feet of 100-pound or 130-pound mono. You got to have a rod that has heavy enough mono and long enough that it can run against rocks and stuff like that and be able to hold up against abrasion. You can run fluoro if you want, but they really prefer the mono down there. It has a little bit of a stretch to it. Now your leaders is a different story. You want to fish heavy leaders, 300 pound, 400 pound, but you don't need them that long. 6 foot is about as long as you need. The problem if you fish right directly to your grouper leader is, get a grouper and he runs for a rock, he clips past that 6 foot leader and it's going to cut you right off. So you want to have a 100-foot mono top shot for grouper fishing. And last but not least, your yo-yo iron or surface iron rods. I like an 8-foot rod, 20 to 50 pound rod, 8 foot. There are purists out there that say if it isn't 9 foot, it's not a jig stick. That's fine. If you want to fish a 9-foot rod, that's fine. I just recommend an 8-foot rod because it's a little bit easier to handle. The reason why I like 8-foot versus 9-foot or 10-foot for a surface iron down there is because you're in a smaller platform to fish off of. So when you get a 9-foot or 10-foot rod and you hook a good fish, it's really hard to get the fish close to the boat to put them on the boat with a gaff. They don't have long gaffs in the boat. Their gaffs are like 4 to 5 foot long gaffs. They're short. You get too long of a rod because it's difficult to handle around the boat. And also it's a little more difficult to travel with. So we recommend 8-foot rods. Plus your 8-foot rod can double up as a yo-yo rod too. So those are your 3 basic sizes that you really should have on these trips. And then for the guys that are more interested in the different techniques of fishing these things, a vertical speed jigging rod. This is for vertical speed, short, 5.5, 6 foot vertical speed rod. This thing right here is absolutely devastating for yellowtail and amberjack. Getting a lot of popularity down there, even with the skippers down in the Bay of LA. A lot more of them are starting to fish the vertical speeds. And then we also have the slow pitch rods. Again, 5.5, 6 feet slow pitch rods. Catch a lot of different stuff on it. We catch sea bass, we catch lane snappers, we catch a lot of yellowtail on it, amberjack. I even had some groupers on these things. This is my light jig outfit, not my ultralight, but my light jig. I'll fish up to 200 grams with this thing. It's a nice light outfit to fish and it's pretty fun. So this is the heavier outfit, your grouper rod, which also doubles up as your trolling rod. You can troll stuff like big nomads or the mirror lures and stuff like that. You want a heavy 2-speed reel. Again, it's your dropper loop, grouper rod, green pargo rod. Other thing that you want to look for is that if you're going to troll down there, you want something with a slick butt. Okay, a hard butt, because what happens is you stick it in the rod holder and you hook a fish. If it's a hypalon type butt, you can't get the rod out of the rod holder. It gets stuck in there. So you definitely want something with a slick butt. Makes it a lot easier to use. But for trolling purposes, or even if you're fishing grouper and you're not holding onto the rod, you're sticking in the rod holder. 1, easier to get it out of the rod holder. 2 is that if you do get a big fish on there, you're not going to break your rod down here. So slick butts are designed to be fished in a gunnel. 2-speed reel, you don't have to have a giant reel. Basically, you need something like a 6/0 size. In this case, I'm using the Daiwa Saltiga 60 because it holds enough 100 pound on there and still keep your spool diameter up. So talking about the grouper, we're going to talk about grouper leaders here. And we covered a little bit on the gear part of it in the beginning of what you need to bring basically. But a grouper leader is a leader about 6 foot long, a swivel on one end, and a big hook on the other end. One of the things you notice on this one is that the hook is a stiff rig. If you're going to crimp it yourself, I recommend you crimp it stiff. And the way I do it is I stick it in through one side, wrap it around the shank a couple times, and come back the opposite side and crimp it down so it keeps it stiff. If you don't want to crimp it yourself, you can have them tie it. They want it stiff so that when the grouper hits the bait, the hook doesn't pivot over. So a lot of the guys down there will snell it. I have a real hard time snelling 300-pound tests. That's why I crimp mine. So this is what my grouper leader looks like. 6 foot long, 12/0 Jobu hook, 350-pound ball bearing swivel. We'll run an actual sliding egg sinker up against the swivel like this. And the reason why is because you don't really want to drag your bait on the bottom. If your bait dies and sinks to the bottom, you're going to be snagging the bottom. So most of the time they wanted you to do is hit bottom and wind it up 3 or 4 turns. So you want to be like 10 feet off the bottom. So that's why, you can fish sliding egg sinkers. This is an 8-ounce slider. Sometimes you'll put 2 or 3 of these things on there. Or you can just do a big torpedo sinker, 16, 20-ounce torpedo sinker, and have a short breakaway, maybe like 6 inches. Sometimes you get live bait and you'll get larger or longer live baits, not so much larger, and then you want to run what they call a trap hook. So you have one hook for the nose, and then one hook towards the middle of the body or towards the tail of the body. And that's what you do when you fish like small yellowtail for live bait or barracuda for live bait. Sometimes you get that 100-pound or less grouper. They can't swallow a whole big bait, but they'll grab the tail of a long bait like a barracuda or a small yellowtail. The trap hooks really make a difference. So depending on how deep you fish and how big the fish are, those are the two types of rigs you can have. Okay, so this is basic selection of baits and colors that we throw for Cabrilla. Early morning, late afternoon, low light situations, you want to stay with the white colors, the white or the bright colors, or even the dark colors, believe it or not. Get bit really good during low light situations. And then once the sun peeks out over the hills and you get a little more light penetration, the bright colors get bit better. Metallics, the flashier colors get bit better. Fish are more aggressively feeding the larger size baits. The 170 is what we recommend. You need to drop down size to the 150, the Hydro Minnow LC, or you'd be looking at the Mag Minnow, yo-zuri Mag Minnows. You see that smaller bait gets bit better middle of the day. When the fish are a little bit more finicky, you want to drop down in size on baits. The smaller ones just don't have as aggressive of an action to trigger the Cabrilla bite as the 170s do. And remember, these things have to be burned fast. All these baits are designed to be super fast. If you're not a hardcore Cabrilla guy, 6 baits per day you're going to fish Cabrilla, you should have. And at least 2, if not 3 of the colors you think you're going to use the most. So these are the rods that we use for Cabrilla. I fish one lighter one and I fish a heavier one. On my lighter outfit, I fish 65-pound braid to 50-pound monotop shot. On my heavier outfit, I fish 80-pound braid to 80-pound leader. This is the reel I prefer to fish. It's the Daiwa Alexa T-Wing 300 because it fits in my hand a little better. Some guys like the 400. There's nothing wrong with fishing the 400. For me, it's just a little bit wider, so it's hard for me to grip and hold onto for a long period of time, casting all day long. I prefer the 300. And you want to make sure you have heavy drags. We've hooked fish with drags absolutely hammered, and these fish will take the line off like you're in free spool. Unfortunately, these rods do not exist in this format. I built these 2 rods specifically for Cabrilla fishing. However, there are some new rods out there now. They have a slower bend, and that slower bend will act like a big shock absorber. Take up some of that cushion that you don't give up with your drags. When your drags are button tight, the rod's going to have a little more bend to it. It's going to keep it from pulling the hooks off the fish. Again, this is a Fishing Syndicate Inshore FSCIS 800M. So the 800M is equivalent to the lighter rod that I'm fishing, and then the 800H will be equivalent to the heavier rod that I fish. So we're not going to talk a lot about surface iron or yo iron fishing because I'm pretty sure most of the guys that are going to be fishing down the Sea of Cortez have done surface iron fishing here or yo iron fishing locally, so we won't cover a lot on that. But we will cover some on the slow pitch and the speed jigging. For speed jigging, you want to go a little heavier. You want a rod that's rated 150 to 350 gram rod or up to 400 grams. You want to fish a little heavier in your line. You want to fish like 50 to 65-pound braid. I prefer 50 versus 65. What I use here is the Valiant 800 Narrow. It's a taller reel. It's like almost like a yellowtail special size. On vertical speed, you want to gain as much line as you can each time you pump. Taller reels work a lot better than narrow, taller reels. So the difference between a speed jig and a slow jig. Speed jigs are generally heavier in the bottom section. So a speed jig is what you want to get down quick in heavy current for fishing yellows, more aggressive, fast-moving fish. The speed jigs are better for it. Versus the slow jig. A slow jig is going to be more of a squattier, center-weighted profile jig. Flat on one side, maybe a little angle on the other side, but kind of short and squat and wide. So it has a lot more flutter on the fall. So that's why you're not working a slow jig as quick, so you want a jig that has a lot of more action on the fall. So a speed jig, the action on working those things is pump and wind down, pump up and wind down, except you're doing it at a lot faster pace. Not crazy fast, but faster. There are fish are really active. If you're getting bumped at this speed and you're not getting a solid hookup, you might want to speed it up a little faster than that. For yellowtail, sometimes the faster the better. They're very aggressive fish and they want it fast. Now sizes for yellowtail speed, you want to start at about 150 grams and work up to about 350 grams. Anything more than 350 becomes a lot of work. It's pretty heavy and it's a lot of work. Now when we fish the slow jigs, typical slow pitch rod, it's going to be 5.5 to 6 foot. You want a rod that's rated from 100 to 300 gram, 100 to 250 gram. I mean, unless you're fishing super heavy current, you probably won't need anything more than 200 grams. I fish 30-pound Spectra for slow pitch down there, and for the bigger fish, I run like 60-pound Top Shot for a bite guard. And then we'll fish anything from 80 grams up to about 150 grams on the slow. And on the slow, there's two different ways of rigging. There's a single hook on top, which I like if you're knocking the bottom. If you have a hook on the bottom, the chances of you snagging the bottom is pretty good. So we like to run a single hook on top. And if I'm not constantly on the bottom and I'm fishing fish that are suspended, I like to fish 2 single shorts. So your hooks don't cross. If they cross, they can lock and then you get in trouble. You have problems with the jig. When they're suspended up high, I like to fish the double. 1 bottom, 1 top. And then on the slow jigging, get it out there, flip it up current, and watch your line, because if your jig is sinking, it's going to pull, your line's going to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. And if it stops, it means one of two things. Either you've hit bottom or you got bit. So if it is bottom, then you want to pop your rod up, and slack off quick and let the jig lay on its end and flutter down. So what I'll do is I'll hit bottom, work it up, let it flutter back down, pop it up the second time. Instead of letting it flutter all the way back down, I'll wind half a turn so that I'm off the bottom now. And you just keep working that a couple times, and then what you do, you're covering the water column on the way up. So slow fishing is really good is when the fish are close to the bottom, they're not super active. Where the speed jig is more for a little bit more current and the fish are more active, the speed jigging is a much more viable way of fishing for game fish down in Sea of Cortez.
All right, I think that's gonna go ahead and finish it up for this video. Before we go, I will say we are doing another giveaway in this video. For the bait side of things, pretty much everything we talked about, you would be getting a prize pack of that. You're gonna be getting 4 sabiki rigs from Owner, 6 separate packs of bait hooks for all of the bait fishing out there on the reefs, 2 of the rigs that Ceasar personally rigged up himself, grouper with a trap rig, and a grouper rig just single hook itself.
Well, 300-pound mono and 350-pound swivels.
Heavy duty rigs, ready for grouper, ready to go. A couple Owner stickers and an Owner hat as well. In order to enter this giveaway, I want you to do 3 things. First, you have to subscribe to me. Second, you have to like the video. And third, you need to comment down below what you would like to see in a future video. We did the same thing for the Cabrilla Tackle Talk. I want to know what you want to see in a future video. Doesn't matter what it is, more tackle talks, more fishing content, recommendation on type of fish. Comment down below what you want to see in a future video, and I will be picking one of those comments at random. I'm really happy to get this out of the way and get this done for you all. As always, thank you, Ceasar, for taking the time out of your day to go ahead and put this together for us. I know a lot of you have been asking for more tackle talks with Ceasar. Sea of Cortez is a super magical place, and I hope a lot of you guys get to check that off the bucket list and get out there and do it yourself. I hope you all have been enjoying the series. I know there's been quite a few recommendations to do a Sea of Cortez tackle talk, and I'm happy to get this one out pretty in depth. There is a Cabrilla tackle talk video that we have already uploaded, and the new winner of that is Matthew. I've reached out to a few of the old winners who have not gotten back to me or replied, so picking the new winner, and it is Matthew. Congratulations, you are getting the Cabrilla giveaway prize pack. In an upcoming video that's going to happen along with this series is going to be speed jigging and slow pitch. I know that we just covered a little bit of that in this video, a little 2-minute segment, but there is going to be a full rundown on what to use, how to rig the jigs, how to fish them properly, what you're fishing them for, and it's going to be mostly yellowtail for speed jigging, and then a little bit more in depth about slow pitch fishing for other species as well. Make sure to stay looking forward to that speed jigging video. There will be a giveaway in that one as well. I would like to give a big thank you to Owner Hooks for donating for this giveaway, along with yo-zuri Lures, Tatty Lure, and Opsin Fluorocarbon for the previous giveaway that Matthew will be getting. That's going to wrap it up for this video. Make sure to look forward to that speed jigging and slow pitch fishing video that's coming up. It's going to be the final video of the series. Make sure to do those 3 steps in order to enter this giveaway in this video. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.